In 1952, artist Cy Twombly and his then lover, Robert Rauschenberg, obtained a scholarship that enabled them to travel to northern Africa and Europe. They arrived in Palermo, Sicily before travelling on to northern Africa. This 8-month trip for these two young queer artists was to provide them with an opportunity that would change the course of art history. On their arrival in North Africa, Rauschenberg began to photograph the textures and crumbling walls that he found around him in northern Africa, particularly Morocco, Tunisia. Twombly and Rauschenberg collaborated, such as on this scratchy black painting which was done with asphalt. You can see here the shapes of the buildings in Tunisia were collected as if a book of symbols by Twombly to be used later in his work. He used the trip to invent his own visual language. These two young artists used their trip as a fact-finding resource, a dictionary almost, from which they took their later inspiration, such as this piece here, which sold for 89 million by Rauschenberg. Twombly's paintings are heavily scratched in and layered with meaning. He used his Tunisia trip to give him the language he needed later on. Fascinated by texture and the idea that a human can leave his mark behind, Twombly was to use markmaking as a main resource. Unfortunately, I can't go to Tunisia, or even anywhere very exotic, but I can go for a walk. You can see from the video clips I've taken here that there are many textures and marks around us. From the marks left in the mud on the lane by the tractor, to the grasses blowing in the breeze, the shapes in between them, the dried grass, the flower heads, and so on. There's marks all around us, and it's your job as the artist to seek them out. You may find it useful to take short clips, video clips with your phone to work from, and you should also work directly in the environment. Look closely at the textures around you. Maybe that unpainted wall could be more interesting than you think. What shapes do you see? Is it dry or wet? Look for shapes that are different, round, uneven, layered, jagged, straight. Look at structures as well as close-up textures, such as this skate ramp in the back garden. Look at things from different angles. Try and find repeated marks and textures within them. What shapes can you see here? How might Twombly have addressed this? What material could you use? Try and take different angles and really think about investigating what's around you with the close-up and curious eye of Twombly or Rauschenberg. You may find it takes courage to let go and work very quickly with harsh, sharp lines like here, working from the grasses from the field. Try and think of different directions of mark, pressures of pencil, a broken line, a staggered line, a heavily pressed line, a dotted line, a sharpened line, blunted line. Think about contrasts of lights and darks. Fill the space. You might like to draw with a more circular line, layering your soft and hard scribbles to create different textures and shapes. Think about the effect you can create with small and large scribbles, and how perhaps layering up different pencils using that scribbly mark-making technique might work well. Always consider contrast, extreme lights and extreme darks. Don't be afraid to really go for it with a soft material like charcoal. Keep on going back over and over and over with your fingers making those marks. Use a light colour as well, like a white or a pink. Keep on building up layers of texture and mark making with your soft material, blurring it out with your finger, maybe rubbing out with a nice clean rubber. I guess this would be better if I used dirt or sand or asphalt in it, just like Cy Twombly and Robert Rauschenberg did in their painting that they made together in Sicily in the 1950s. You can also use other mediums such as collage and painting to create mark making. Robert Rauschenberg famously said, "What can't be in a painting? A toy? An animal? Fabric?" And he was right, of course. Mixed media work uses exactly that, different mediums. So try mixing your media for your mark making. Tear up old envelopes, layer up with paint, scratch into with the wrong end of your paintbrush, add ink, layer up. Look carefully at the texture of the item that you're trying to work from. Use your videos or your photographs. Go outside and take rubbings. Produce lots and lots of mark making experiments in your sketchbook. You can even try layering up wet on wet ink with paint and pencil on top, like in this clip. The aim of the game in this exercise is not to produce perfect drawings, but rather to make you really look at the environment around you. That might mean structures such as the skate ramp, or it might mean close-up textures such as the rocks from the old pebble dash wall. I really want you to develop a language of your own to use later when we make sculptures and start to draw with a very tight observational style. So do spend plenty of time on this important mark making. You're inventing your own visual language like Twombly. Don't be afraid of using colour, experimenting, and use everything you have, all the materials in your art box. The ability to make marks and layer will give you real freedom to represent things, especially in paint.